December 1944. I remember the cold first. A kind of cold that bites through wool, through leather, through bone. The Ardennes forest breathes it out like a living thing trying to smother us beneath frost and silence. Dawn hasn't risen yet, just a dull gray bruise on the horizon, and everything feels suspended as if the world itself is holding its breath. My name is Friedrich Weber, Oberleutnant, veteran of Kursk, survivor of a war that has chewed through stronger men than me. And on this morning, I walked the snow-packed line with a sense of routine so familiar I could follow it blindfolded. My boots crunch over frozen earth. My men mutter about rations and cigarettes, the small complaints of soldiers who think they understand what waits beyond the tree line. The tigers and panthers nearby rumble quietly as their engines warm, steel beasts waking from uneasy sleep. Steam curls from the muzzles of rifles. Someone laughs at a joke I don't hear. It's normal. Comfortably, deceptively normal. And then, the forest freezes. A hum rolls through the trees, low and unnatural. Not artillery. Not mortars. Not the crack of our own 88. This sound is smoother, colder, mechanical in a way I can't place. I lift my field glasses, scanning the pale horizon. A flash blinks. Tiny. Perfect. Too perfect. Another. And another. All evenly spaced. All synchronized. My breath ices on my scarf as a thought presses into my mind with the weight of inevitability. Whatever is coming, it is not something we have prepared for. I've survived years on the Eastern Front. I've seen T-34s swarm in waves, watched comrades vanish under Katyusha fire, listened to the death spiral of Luftwaffe aircraft shot from the sky. But this feels different. This feels like the rules of war are about to change. I used to believe we understood the Americans. Every briefing, every intelligence summary, every line of propaganda painted the same picture. Well-fed amateurs with mass-produced machines, men who fought because their factories demanded it, not because they carried war in their blood. We were the veterans of Poland, France, Russia. We were the heirs of Guderian and the 88. We were craftsmen. They were assembly workers. That illusion followed us everywhere. Into our barracks, into our tanks, into the frostbitten forests of the Ardennes. I had carried it like a shield, comforting in its simplicity. Even here, even now, as the offensive gathered, my men joked about Ronson lighters, about Shermans burning before their turrets could even traverse. I had seen it with my own eyes, their armor peeled open like tin. Their guns bounced off our glassy plates like thrown stones. The mathematics of battle had always favored us. But something had been shifting beneath the surface, so quietly we didn't feel the tremor until it was too late. Reports from Aachen, scattered testimonies from Metz, strange penetration marks on recovered hulls, all dismissed. Command said the Americans were desperate, improvising, throwing everything they had into the fire just to slow us down. What they didn't tell us, what they didn't know, was that behind their lines stood an empire of industry moving with terrifying precision. While we were rationing tungsten and spare parts, they were forging firepower with the same casual speed they built automobiles. While we clung to the prestige of German engineering, they were treating war like an equation, one solved with furnaces, conveyor belts, and a workforce larger than our entire army. And now, standing in the frozen dawn with that mechanical hum washing through the trees, I felt the first fracture in the old illusion. The Americans weren't just coming. They weren't simply counterattacking. They were revealing something. Something built in silence, hidden behind distance, born from mathematics instead of myth. Industrial thunder disguised as artillery. Precision disguised as chaos. A weapon, maybe many weapons, we had never accounted for. Whatever was waking beyond that pale horizon wasn't part of the war we thought we were fighting. It was the beginning of another war entirely. And our old certainties were about to die in the snow. The moment it begins, I know something is wrong. At 5:47 a.m., just as the horizon starts bleeding a pale silver, a new sound slices through the stillness. Not a barrage. Not the familiar rolling thunder of American guns trying, and usually failing, to break our line. This is clean. Precise. Each detonation lands with the discipline of a metronome. 20 seconds apart. Exactly. I count them without meaning to. 1, 2, 3, each one landing in perfect sequence along our forward slope, walking toward us with unnerving intention. Artillery isn't supposed to behave like this. Artillery is chaos, smoke, guesswork, the mathematics of men scribbling on muddy maps. But this feels engineered. Lieutenant, they're firing blind, my radio operator mutters. They can't see us through this fog. I want to believe him. But the explosions disagree. Each one falls precisely 50 meters from the last, a pattern so deliberate it feels like a warning written in fire across the snow. This is not how Americans fight. This is not how anyone fights. My breath fogs as I raise my field glasses. Through drifting smoke, I watch a line of impacts stitch across the valley, straight, measured, impossibly uniform. Every 20 seconds, another strike. Every strike exactly where it needs to be. My heartbeat slows. Not from calm, from understanding. This isn't counter battery, I whisper. They're not searching for us. They already know. The next blast hits a supply truck behind our position. The vehicle lifts like a toy, its roof peeling away. Men scatter, some diving, some frozen in disbelief. Another impact strikes the foxholes we dug yesterday. Perfect hit. Direct center. Dietrich, my gunner, climbs out of our Panther, wide-eyed. Herr Oberleutnant, that's impossible. No, it's worse. It means the Americans have changed the rhythm of war itself. Command taught us the old dance. Endure the barrage, hold the line, counterattack when the guns lift. It worked in France. It worked in Russia. It worked because artillery was crude and we were patient. But this isn't a barrage. It's a machine performing mathematics with explosives. One more blast. Then another. Still 20 seconds. Still 50 meters. Still perfect. The first crack in our confidence spreads like frost across glass. Whatever the Americans have unleashed this morning, it is not the army we mocked in propaganda reels. It is something colder. Something clinical. Something that fires not with guesswork but with certainty. And as the forest shakes around us, I feel the sickening truth settle into my bones. The rules we lived by no longer exist. The American fire should have faded by now. That's how these things work. A storm of steel, a pause, the counter-battery duel, then the rhythm settles into something familiar. But this isn't settling. It's escalating. Every time we shift positions, the next salvo lands faster, as if someone invisible is watching our movements and updating firing tables in real time. I've fought the Red Army's massed artillery, felt the earth shake from Soviet barrages that lasted hours. But even they never achieved this kind of precision. This isn't weight of fire, this is accuracy weaponized. 3 minutes after our neighboring battery begins relocating, a rain of shells obliterates their new position. 3 minutes. Not 10. Not 15. 3. Their guns never even get the chance to speak. I crouch behind a shattered stump, radio pressed to my ear, listening to the frantic calls of officers who suddenly realize the battlefield has turned against them in ways they don't understand. We're shifting north, one unit reports, only for the line to erupt with static and screams 30 seconds later. Time-on-target missions are slamming down across multiple sectors simultaneously, perfectly synchronized detonations that shake snow from the trees like white shrapnel. They can't see us, my loader Johann mutters, his voice cracking. They can't. Not through this fog. But they can. Somehow, impossibly, they can. Every German tactic, every doctrine drilled into us since cadet school, collapses one after another. Maneuver is suicide. Digging in is pointless. Camouflage delays nothing. Even retreat feels predictable to whatever machine is guiding this storm. A Panther from our sister company attempts to cross a clearing, hoping to reach defilade behind a ridge. Halfway across, a scatter of shells lands around it in a perfect triangle, boxing it in. The fourth shell hits dead center. When the smoke clears, the tank's turret rests 20 meters away, upside down like some brutal trophy. I feel my heartbeat accelerating, matching the rhythm of distant detonations. This is not battle, this is dissection. Men begin asking questions they never asked before. How do they know where we are? How are they firing so fast? Why aren't they running out of ammunition? Questions of men facing an enemy who suddenly feels omniscient. And then a thought spreads through the ranks, soft at first, then loud enough to drown the artillery itself. We are trapped. Completely trapped. The forest that once sheltered us now feels like a cage. Every movement, every breath, every attempt to survive is answered instantly by American steel. I look at my men, faces pale, eyes wide, and I know none of them have ever fought a war like this. Neither have I. This isn't America as we knew it. This is something new. Something industrial. Something inevitable. War is supposed to have a rhythm. Even terror has its pauses. Moments where a man can wipe the mud from his face, adjust his helmet, tell himself he still has control. But this has no rhythm. No mercy. Only pressure. I crouch beside my Panther, listening to the quiet breaking of men around me. Real men. Veterans who have survived Stalingrad, Kovel, the retreat across Ukraine. And now, in this frozen forest, they unravel not from enemy tanks charging us, but from mathematics delivered through steel. A young radio operator, 17 maybe 18, shakes uncontrollably as another time-on-target strike annihilates the dugout he slept in last night. He stares at the crater, whispering prayers between gasps, as if trying to bargain with a god who has stopped listening. To my left, Feldwebel Reiter, who once stood atop a burning T-34 waving his SMG like a madman, is curled behind a supply crate, hands clamped over his ears, his eyes wide and unfocused. I call his name twice before he even registers me. "Not like this," he murmurs. "Not like this, they can't be this accurate." A mechanic from the support company drags a wounded friend through the snow, leaving a streak of red that steams in the cold air. The injured man's voice is barely a breath. "Why? So precise? How do they know?" He says it as though the accuracy itself is the wound killing him. Officers, men who once barked orders with the confidence of wolves, now hesitate to leave cover. Every movement feels like stepping into the gaze of an invisible executioner. Every decision feels late, wrong, punished before it's even made. Then there are the ones who don't speak at all. Silent soldiers sitting with their backs against trees, staring into the fog as if trying to see the face of this new enemy. Not Americans. Not soldiers. Something larger. Something mechanical wearing the shape of an army. A few men stumble toward our lines with their hands raised high, choosing humiliation over one more hour under this storm. I cannot blame them. Courage has limits. Nerves have limits. Flesh has limits. What crushes us is not just the firepower. It's the knowledge, the horrifying certainty, that the enemy sees the battlefield in a way we cannot. They fire with confidence we no longer possess. Their shells don't just break earth, they break will. And in that moment, watching my men fracture beneath the unseen weight pressing down on us, I understand something I have never admitted before. This isn't a contest of bravery or even skill. This is humanity being ground down by industry, metal, calculation, and a cold efficiency that feels almost inhuman. And as the next barrage rolls in, I feel the truth settle like ice in my chest. If this continues, there will be nothing left of us to save. It happens just after midday, when the sky turns the color of dirty steel and the snow begins to fall sideways, carried by a wind that howls like something wounded. I am standing beside my panther, trying to calm Johann's shaking hands, when the first distant rumble reaches us. Not guns. Not single batteries. A wall. Then the ground jumps beneath my boots, a deep, rolling concussion that tears the breath from my lungs. A second follows. Then a third. Then a dozen. The entire horizon flashes white, then orange, then white again, like the sky is being ripped apart by some furious god. Artillery, someone shouts, too late, too obvious, too small a word for what is happening. 3 American divisions are firing at once. 8, maybe 900 guns. The blasts merge into a single continuous roar. It doesn't feel like shells anymore. It feels like the earth is being hammered on an anvil the size of the Ardennes. The first salvos land miles ahead. Then closer. Then closer still. The pattern collapses into a storm, no more perfect spacing, no more precise intervals. Now the Americans no longer need precision. They are unleashing mass. Raw industrial mass. 45,000 shells in 3 hours. The entire forest becomes smoke and splintered wood. Trees explode upward like shattered spears. Snow turns black, then red, then vanishes under the churned mud beneath. I see men running in every direction. No formation, no chain of command left. Just survival instincts, primitive and panicked. A panther from 2nd Company lurches through the smoke, turret jammed, tracks barely clinging to the chassis. A second round hits it before I can shout a warning. The explosion rips the tank open like a tin can, flames pouring out of every hatch. One of the crew stumbles out, clothes on fire, screaming for his mother as he collapses into the snow. Radio lines collapse under the weight of frantic voices. Then they go silent entirely, wires severed, operators killed, equipment destroyed. We are blind. Cut off. A shell detonates so close it lifts me off the ground and slams me into the frozen earth. My ears ring until the world becomes distant and underwater. When I stagger to my feet, the sky is raining debris, branches, metal fragments, torn canvas, pieces of things I do not want to identify. Where my company's command post once stood, there is only a crater. Where our reserve line once waited, there is only churned mud and smoke. Where our armored formation once held the road, nothing remains but burning wrecks. It takes only minutes for the truth to settle in my gut. Our formation is gone. Wiped out before we could even fight. By the time the bombardment finally lifts, the battlefield is unrecognizable. The line is ruptured. Units scattered. Entire companies erased without firing a shot. And I realize, with a hollow numbness spreading through me, that the battle is already over. Our offensive is dead. Our army is broken. The Ardennes has swallowed the myth of German supremacy whole. And it is not giving it back. When the guns finally fall silent, the quiet feels unreal, too soft, too fragile, like the world is holding its breath to see if anything human survived. Smoke drifts between the trees in long gray ribbons. Snowflakes melt before touching the scorched ground. The forest smells of sap, cordite, and the awful sweetness of things burned that were never meant to burn. I stand alone beside what remains of my Panther. The turret is gone, cartwheeled into the trees by the bombardment. The hull is split open along the weld seams, metal peeled like skin. Johann, Dietrich, the other boys, all gone. Their names already fading under the cold arithmetic of this battlefield. We spend hours searching for survivors. Some we find wandering in circles, deaf and blind from the blasts. Others sit in the snow, staring at nothing, their minds cracked by a force no human spirit was meant to endure. The rest, too many, are simply gone. Vaporized, buried, unrecoverable. As units attempt to reassemble, the scale of the loss becomes clear. Entire companies vanished. Battalions reduced to skeleton crews. Officers missing, radios destroyed, supply lines shredded. Our counteroffensive is now a disorganized retreat, stumbling backward through a forest that no longer belongs to us. In the days that follow, rumors spread faster than orders. Men speak of American guns that fire with machine-like perfection, of barrages that fall exactly where they need to, of ammunition that never seems to run out. Some whisper that the Americans have found a way to see us through the fog and snow. Some new device, some new trick. Others simply say the truth out loud. They fight with industry. We fight with men. And men break. Interrogations after the war confirm what we felt but couldn't name. American logistics, those endless factories across an ocean, fed their guns day and night, creating an artillery system so vast and precise it made a mockery of our craftsmanship. While we measured shortages in shells, they measured output in thousands per hour. While we patched tanks with scavenged parts, they delivered replacements by the trainload. In 1946, when they asked me for my official testimony, I wrote only what I knew to be true. We thought we were fighting an army. We were fighting an assembly line. Bravery had carried us far. Experience had carried us farther. But none of that mattered against a nation that waged war like mathematics, calculating, feeding, firing, refining, never stopping, never tiring, never running dry. The Ardennes was where our myth died. Where German superiority melted into the snow. Where we learned the final brutal lesson. Courage cannot outfight industry. Steel cannot outthink mass. And no army, no matter how skilled, survives a war it cannot afford.